I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about narcissistic personality disorder. Specifically, how do you start the process of healing? We have personality disorders, and we call them cluster B personality disorders. So there's narcissistic personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. And each one of those are different in their own way. But if there was one common thread or theme between all of them, it's that the person who has those personality disorders are extremely selfish. They are looking at serving themselves. Now, sometimes they don't care about the victims. Sometimes they care about how they're perceived. And we could maybe get into that a little bit later. But I just wanted to point out the fact that of all of those forms of abuse and all the forms of abuse in general, I would say that one of the worst forms of abuse is narcissistic abuse. And the reason is because it involves so much of your self-concept. There can be just doubt that you have. It's a self-doubt. It's questioning reality, questioning your sanity. I think that if any of you have ever looked in the comment section of these videos on narcissism, or maybe a forum or something, you'll be reading that and you're like, wow, how did that person experience? No, that's exactly what I experienced. And so there's so much identification. Now, that's not true with a lot of other disorders or maladaptive behaviors that people experience. If a child grows up in a home that's abusive, or maybe a child grows up in a home where there's an alcoholic, sometimes when the alcoholic came home, he or she was happy. Sometimes they were angry. Sometimes they didn't come home. So you have this wide range of behaviors in a lot of these other forms of abuse and disorders. But when it comes to narcissistic abuse, it's pretty by the book, almost like to a T. I could start naming some similarities, and most of you would be like, yeah, that's exactly what this person did. That's exactly how I felt. I thought I was a narcissist because that's what they told me. And so that gives us a leg up when it comes to healing in that process, because it's not like we have to define all of these variables and stuff, because the variables are pretty fixed to some degree. Now, here's the challenge. The challenge is this is very complex. There are layers and layers to all of this, and it can be overwhelming. In fact, when I talk to some of the victims that have experienced this, they might start a procedure of self-help. Maybe they're reading a book, or maybe they're watching a video, and they just get overwhelmed so quickly. And so I always tell my kids, I'm like, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one bite at a time. And so that's really kind of the goal for what I would like to do here. Is I would like to just start this process really slow, because to me, the most effective form of helping victims of narcissistic abuse is identification and validation. Because once you start to identify what has happened to you, and you start to realize, oh, so that's what they're doing, and then you understand the validation of like, so I'm not crazy. So I do have the right to a sound mind. I do have the ability to make good decisions. Once you start to see that, and you start to hear from other people, and other people will say, that's exactly what I thought. Like, why does this happen like this? So identification and validation are going to be our friend when it comes to healing from this. So I would like to introduce a concept, a tactic that the narcissist will use to lay the groundwork for, and this to me is like one of the most effective techniques that the narcissist use, and has used for many, many, many years, because it serves them so well. And you are all familiar with it. This is something that you probably experienced in your early childhood. And it's going to sound super simple, but once you start recognizing it, it is very common throughout the entirety of dealing with narcissistic abuse. And that is, is that if I want to make myself look better, I'm going to make you look bad. And you'll see children in school settings say, oh, you got ugly shoes. Well, everyone then looks at the person who has the other shoes on, and they're like, oh, my shoes are nice. See, I just made your shoes look bad, made my shoes look good by making yours look bad. And it is such a petty form of that. And I'd like to say that that stays with us in childhood, but we all know grown adult men who do that. We all know grown adult women who do that. But it might be a little bit more sophisticated. It might be a little bit more hidden. It might be a little bit more manipulative. So what that might look like in present life as an adult might be, oh, I didn't know you like that. There's a value judgment there that someone just said, right? You like that? They might not have said that, but that's what they were saying by their comments and how they respond to you. And so I really want you to just be on the lookout for that basic technique, because once you start realizing that they're going to make themselves better by making you look bad, you'll start to recognize that that is something that they've probably been doing for a long time, and they've gotten very, very skilled at how to do it, when to do it. You know, we mentioned the 4 different personality disorders that at the first of this. You know, the biggest difference between antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, the antisocial, they don't care. They don't care whether you don't like it. If I say your shoes look bad, I don't really care whether you like me or not. The narcissist, on the other hand, they do care. And this is where this form of abuse is so damaging and so devastating, is because the victim of narcissistic abuse is somehow entwined or connected relationally to the abuser. And they do care because at some point that narcissist has woven themselves into your life. And it could have been through maybe a compliment, maybe through flattery. It could have been through a gift. It's some sort of indebtedness. Oh, you remember the time that I used to help you do that? Or remember when I bought you that thing? And yeah. And so they want to hold it above your head. And they want to use it as a string to stay connected to you. And we're going to learn a lot about just those. Those are different forms of tactics. But the reason why the whole tactic of making themselves look better by making you look bad is such a common theme is that once they start doing that, they've done it because they have a relationship with you. They have connected themselves to you relationally, and now you know, if I went into a store and I didn't know somebody and they said they didn't like my shoes, well, I don't know that person. It doesn't really mean anything. But if I have a relationship with you and you say that, now I'm devastated. Now I'm like, oh, okay, well, what kind of shoes would be pleasing to you? And that's part of the web that the narcissist uses to draw you in. And so, again, I don't want to overwhelm you at first, but I just want to give you this notion that through the simple process of having identification and validation, you can start healing on that journey of learning how to, you know, love yourself for who you are and who you were designed to be, and not giving credibility to what they have to say. And again, we're talking about complexity here. I'll just kind of pull back the glass a little bit just so you can see the complexity is, well, what happens if I meet someone and I'm just going to, I build a wall because I'm not going to believe what this person says. But what happens if you meet someone who is genuine, who does have compassion, who doesn't have those personality disorders, and maybe they just struggle in their tact. Maybe they just said something that they shouldn't have said, or maybe they said something to you and you're like questioning their motives because you've built this wall. And again, here we go. The narcissist has gotten into your head, and they've allowed you've allowed them to have this control over how you approach this new relationship. And so what makes this challenging is because we have to be able to identify what the manipulative tactic is. We have to be able to identify what their motivation is. so that not only can we keep those people away, but what we can do is then we can open ourselves to healthy relationships, to people who treat us with respect and dignity and kindness. And we can see the difference when a person comes to you and they say they're sorry, because we all make mistakes. But when they apologize to you, you actually see remorse and repentance, and they want to atone for what they did, as opposed to apologizing just to manipulate. So I hope this is helpful. I think that I have a lot of hope for victims of narcissistic abuse. Once we start talking about these things, it's really to empower you. It's to help you spot these things and to identify that, for one, you're not alone, and number two is that you got to be prepared for encountering these sorts of difficult people and challenging people. So, if this is something that you find useful or helpful, or if there's something that you would like to say, leave a comment in the section below. I would really like for this to be a place where people can experience healing and connection with other people. And I look forward to having the opportunity to talk again about some of the other tactics that these narcissists use. So I appreciate it.